Hello, for anybody watching this in the replay. I hope you guys are having, or have had rather, a good Wednesday. Hey Caroline, how are you? Or Carolyn, sorry. I'm probably gonna change the lighting tonight. I have somewhat of a headache. It's not terrible, but I don't want the light to be so bright to make my head hurt more, if that makes sense. Hey Sammy Joe, how are you? How is everybody doing tonight? Hey Crystal. My laptop is down tonight. A lot of that is just to reduce the amount of light that my eyes are looking at. When I have headaches like this, if I stare too much at bright light or I pay too much attention to anything too bright or computered, it will cause me to have a migraine, and I don't want to end up with a migraine tonight, so I'm trying to make sure I take precautions to prevent that from happening. Hey Kim, you're here for the parenting, yet you have no kids. Yeah, so I'm just gonna give it like a minute or two for anybody else who may want to be a part of this open discussion to get in here, because there are a couple of disclaimers that I want to put in place before we really get into anything of the topic tonight. Hey Della, good to see you again. I feel like I just saw you just a couple of seconds ago in Britt's stream. I hope everybody's week has been going good. Tomorrow is my Friday at work, and I am looking forward to it. Hey Miss Cassandra, how are you? I hope everybody's week has been good. Yeah, this week's been hard for me. I don't know if it's because I had company over the weekend last minute that I just wasn't sleeping well, and for some reason it's like rolled into this week. I have not been able to go to bed at a decent hour at all this week. I am one of the individuals who I've always been this way. If I don't get enough sleep for a consistent amount of nights, I typically will end up feeling ill. And I don't know if that's why I have a headache or if it has to do with the weather changing here. The weather's still in the process of going into winter, so my body, I guess my brain is just adjusting to that. You cooked beef and soup? I'm doing pretty good. I just have a weird headache. So, well, I don't want the people who are here to feel like we're not going to get into topics. So I may have to stop a couple of times along the way as people maybe join to say these disclaimers. People who maybe have seen my content or have not seen my content. I do not have children. For people who have heard me or asked me about it, I don't have any children. I have dog children, but I'm not a parent. So in some ways, I'm not going to be able to fully relate to people who are in these tough situations. I have gone to school, as a lot of us have. I am a social worker. I do work within the community. I did work in child welfare for like 3 years until I moved. So I do have a pretty good information and things that I have experienced in that field, and I can provide advice as far as like what I have learned, both from working in child welfare and just from having children in my family and my close family. So I just want to be sure people who maybe don't know are aware that I don't have children. So if you don't want to take my advice because of that, I totally understand that. If you do, that's fine too. I just want to make sure that I provide that disclaimer so it doesn't seem like I'm trying to be preachy to anybody, so it doesn't seem like this is out of place or not my place to talk about it. Hey, Kat. A lot of these last two topics were topics that people actually have come to me and have stated that they think would be a beneficial open discussion topic to have. So I want to obviously follow through with that for any of my subscribers, as I have always offered. If you ever have any topics of discussion or ideas that you want to potentially talk about, just let me know, whether that's on a community post or if you want to send me a DM. Whatever you're comfortable with is fine with me. So, with all of that being said, this topic was, like I said, it was brought to me. It wasn't brought to me publicly, so I'm not going to talk about who, sorry, I'm thirsty, who it was or what they said, but it sparked a larger conversation, especially because we have so many commentary channels, myself included, who talk about families, family vloggers. And so what I feel like is we don't always necessarily, and I'm, even for myself, when I look back, there's times when I'm not necessarily like taking a step back and maybe viewing it from the parent's perspective. And most oftentimes I do try to provide that before I give any context. I know with the Stoffers, that situation is way too personal to me, and I'm way biased in the coverage of that story. But when I did make my video on 8 passengers, I did play devil's advocate with them in their situation, what was going on at the time, and provided like where I could see they were coming from and where I couldn't see where they were coming from. So I wasn't giving them excuses, but I also was able to maybe have the argument even with myself that I can see where maybe they were doing some of the things that they were doing. Hey, Melody. I appreciate you being here. If you don't feel well, I totally understand you not staying. So with parenting, there's multiple ways that we can talk about parenting. Hey, April, we can talk about parenting as far as like, and I know it was worded in a way, like I think on my poll, it was like problematic children or difficult children. And a lot of that is because I feel, and again, I'm not a parent, but I feel parents often are guarded to talk about children that they have that are problematic, that are difficult to handle. And I don't mean by the parent's fault, right? As people, we, especially I feel as parents, nobody wants to be judged off of their parenting. And if you have a child who is continually acting out or maybe being disobedient, you don't really want to publicly share that, because people are going to take that information and maybe judge you from it, or, you know, make an assumption about you as a person because of what your child is doing, even if it's nothing that is from parenting. Oh, you changed your name. Oh, okay. Ah, I see. You'll probably have to remind me a few times. Otherwise, I'm sure I'm likely to forget, especially since I don't feel that great tonight. Hey, that Amber chick. So a lot in this conversation, if you have children or you are in the situation where you just don't want to be judged, like you're not going to get judged here. I'm not saying anybody has to provide their personal experience with their children, but you can if you feel comfortable. Hey, Crystal, if you feel comfortable and you want to talk about it to maybe get other people's opinions, because I can almost guarantee you, even in the 17 people we have watching right now, I'm sure if there are other parents, they have experienced something similar. They just may not be willing to talk about it, or maybe won't feel comfortable talking about it. which is understandable. I get that parenting is something that is people judge so harshly. Sometimes is it warranted? Yes. But a lot of times I think people are just way too judgmental over how somebody chooses to raise their children. And as a society, we need to understand that there are different forms of parenting and not everybody is going to parent the same way. A lot of this can, go even back to things like spanking, right? Some parents still spank their children. Some absolutely refuse to provide any kind of physical punishment to their children. It's not to say that one is over the other, right? We can't make that judgment for everybody else. We can make that decision for ourselves. If we have children and we get to make that choice on how we want to parent our children, then yes, of course, like, do whatever you are comfortable doing. But I am just trying to support the fact that it's so easy to judge based off of our own maybe experiences or preconceived notions on how things should be done. You have a 13-year-old. Hey, Gabby. What reminds you of Daddy 05? Did I miss something? You have a large family, Crystal. Hey, Amber. So my laptop the screen had gone black for a second just because I didn't touch it. So if I missed anybody's comment, where I'm going with it is I feel bad because, I have been in the position where I have to put parents in positions that they don't want to be in. Hey, Mila, to, ask them the hard-hitting questions in a way that doesn't make them feel that they are doing something wrong, because just because a professional is there and asking and following up on stuff doesn't necessarily mean that something has happened. Your household, yes, Crystal, I'm sure your household deals with a lot of public stigma. And that's just, no matter where we get in this world, honestly, I hope at one day we can get rid of all of the isms. The reality is probably that that's never going to happen. But one of the isms that is not talked about enough is disabilities and the judgment and the stereotypes and what you got, even parents of children who have these disabilities have to deal with on a regular daily basis, if not multiple times a day, like ableism. So there is a scenario in one of my social work classes, and I don't remember which one because it's been a few years, but I had an instructor when we started to talk about ableism and the isms. She put this into a really good perspective. And I am not trying to preach to anybody, but this is for people who don't have children with any kind of needs, or live a life with anybody who has had needs like this before, is especially for the ones that, this is more of a visual one, but she gave the example of, as people, we go into public restrooms, right? Oftentimes what we do is, or at least I know I was guilty of this until this was brought to my attention, is that I would oftentimes, if the larger bathroom, the handicap bathroom was available, I would use that bathroom. She put it in the context for us that, it wasn't our right really to use that restroom. That restroom is there for people who maybe need it. I was potentially, when I used to use that bathroom, I was potentially making it to where somebody who actually needed the extra space for whatever reason didn't have it. I was subconsciously not even realizing that I was not making it easier for another person. I, to some degree, was participating in ableism because I was using a restroom that I didn't need to use. I just wanted the extra space. Now, obviously, in situations where it's the only it's the only stall available and there's a line, then it's kind of expected that you just go into whatever stall is open. And I understand that, but I would go into bathrooms, and I know I'm not the only one guilty of this. I'm not saying you guys have to say you did it too, but it just really puts it into perspective that things like that are not thought about, even when it comes to children, because you go to the grocery store, you go to Walmart, whatever store you typically go to on a regular basis, pre-COVID. I know since COVID, things are a little bit different, but you go to these stores and you see a kid that maybe is of an older age sitting in the cart. You automatically, I don't want to say everybody, but it is likely that people are just going to the assumption that the parents are enabling that child to be entitled, that it's the parents who are doing something wrong. They don't ever think that it could be because of an illness, something that they just can't see. They never think of that. It's always the parents are doing something wrong. When a kid cries, obviously not infants, but like when a child who's like, let's say 5, starts crying in the store and throws a fit or a temper tantrum to some degree, we assume as public, like something's wrong with the child. And if the child continues to cry or is inconsolable, the general public are going to go to the conclusions that the parents need to get that child get him in order. Why is this happening? It's not something that the general public will think about. Well, is there something that the child has that is pressuring him? And I'm not trying to pinpoint, but a lot of individuals who have autism or Down syndrome or sensitivity, like sensory issues, going into public places is already hard. This can even go for individuals with anxiety. As adults, we deal with this regularly. Think of a child who can't understand what anxiety is, and they are suffering from that, and they're put into a large, loud place that maybe they typically don't go to when it's busy, and they go when it's busy and they have a meltdown because they're a child and they don't know how to handle it. And the public is just going to push their perceived thoughts onto the parents, that the parents have to be doing something wrong. That's terrible. In today's society, it would be so hard to be a parent and deal with all of these judgments and all of these standards that people put on you for, whatever reason. Everybody has a different standard of what they think the best or the most perfect parent would be. Nobody has the same ideal parenting style. So within me talking about all of that, it seems a couple more people have joined the chat. So I am going to try and go back up and make sure I'm addressing everybody. You have 6 kids and 7 grandkids. Your oldest grandson is 17. You have to say quarantine and distance learning has got me running for the hills. Both my kids have IEPs, and you cannot be there for both during the day, and you feel like it's the day, so you feel like the biggest failure. And that's something that, I didn't even think would be brought up in tonight's Parenting Live, but it's an important topic that should be discussed, is homeschooling. Parents who don't typically homeschool or who aren't typically in the position of being a homeschool parent are now facing those feats. They are facing being with their children 24/7, That's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, like, you have households to run, you have jobs that you hold. It changes everybody's lifestyle. And children who have IEPs, it's going to be harder for parents to navigate that. Although you know your children, you know their needs, you know what helps and what works for them, it's different in a learning environment. I don't think the general public realizes that that is probably a huge gap, and that is going to be seen, in my opinion, when kids go back to school who have these IEPs or who have lesson plans that they follow. It is going to become evident to schools that there's a lack of education between like the general public compared to what these like professionals learn on how to educate these children and how to make sure that they are meeting the milestones they are expected to meet. I'm not trying to say that parents are incapable of meeting those milestones, but without the additional supports that the schools are able to pull in and bring to these children, it does make it harder for parents, especially low-income parents. Oh, thank you, Leanne. I appreciate that. I'm sorry for being so far behind in the chat, guys. I'm going to try and catch up quickly. Hey, Nurse Kimberly. I haven't posted many videos lately, and I don't mean that to laugh. I always end up putting forth a plan for myself on like, these are the videos I'm going to post. I have plenty of ideas, but this week has been, since company got here, it's been a whirlwind. I can't exactly, like, teaching children from home right now has got to be super hard for you parents. And, you know, really everybody should be giving these parents who are having to learn how to navigate life right now a massive round of applause, because you know their whole lives are really being uprooted and we're all having to adjust to this new world. But as a parent, how scary, like, this is a genuine question because I don't have kids. How scary is it for you guys? Like, nobody knows what's going to continue to happen with this pandemic. None of us know. As adults, we can navigate it a little bit more, but if you're pregnant or you have an infant or you have children who are at a susceptible age to contract this and it be fatal, like, are you guys scared? And I don't want to judge you on that. It's a genuine question. Are you guys scared because of everything going on, especially since numbers are creeping back up in a lot of states? That is awesome. Your daughter adopted 2 girls with needs, and her youngest son was adopted as a newborn from a heroin addict. And she has 3 biological children. She has a lot of kids, and I don't mean that in a negative way. You were never spanked as a kid, and you've never spanked mine. Yours got grounded. Yeah, see, there's different parenting styles all around. There's nothing, and I mean, I can get into that more if you guys want me to, like from previous work. That's awesome, Amber. Miss Cassandra, if your child's not in the cart, he will try to run. And they'll look at you. But see, that's still a stigma. They're going to look at you like you're not controlling your child. Since when are we supposed to control our children? Like, I'm not that old. I know I'm not that old. I'm only 30. And I remember like being able to be a kid and like run around, play outside, get dirty. Now it's like kids need to be prim and proper 24/7. And we wonder why this generation is so freaking entitled. I mean, come on. It's sad that people judge. It is sad. I mean, especially around parenting. Even if you're a parent, like that's what kind of frustrates me. I'm not a parent and I don't expect parents to parent their children a certain way. A lot of that could be because of work I have done. But I don't believe I really judged the way parents parented their children before I did that work. And since then, it has almost made me be almost more questioner. Like, I don't question the parents, I question the situation. And like, I try to analyze the entire situation. Your son is 4. He's so strong-willed. He's hard some days. Yeah, but I mean, like, the fact that you used to be self-conscious about your toddler having a temper tantrum is just, those are things that I don't think parents should have to worry about. I understand that you're going to worry about them anyways, but I wish it was something that you didn't have to worry about. Hey, Britt. If you're still here, I just realized how far behind I am. There's some days that you don't feel like you do anything right as a parent. You finally decide to celebrate your victories. But that's how it should be, in my opinion. Like, we can't all, if you're a parent, you're going to have bad days. You're going to struggle, right? I mean, I don't have kids and I have bad days. Today has been a bad day for me because I've had a weird headache. And I don't always, like, I know because I had a headache today, I didn't do my absolute best at work. Do I feel like I could have done better and like kind of bad about my work performance today? Yes, but I do know myself and my ethics and my morals that tomorrow I will make up for it as much as possible. And that's how I think parents should view things. If that's how we're going to like view our work or our person, like, you can't, bad days are going to happen. Don't damn yourself as a parent because you're having a rough day or your child is having a rough day. You know, children are still people and their emotions are developing. Their personality is still developing. Their being, everything is still in the process of being developed. There are going to be a lot of hardships, a lot of hard roads. That's why parenting is so difficult. I agree with that, Miss Cassandra, that children are having more meltdowns because they're not seeing friends or getting out. Their lives are changing, and depending on their age, they're not able to fully comprehend or understand what the pandemic is. Even if you're sitting down as a parent and you're getting on their level and you're trying your best to explain it to them in terms that they can understand, the reality is a lot of freaking adults can't even understand the pandemic, right? Like, we see that in the news, we see it when we go out in public, people not caring about others. It's not so much about yourself to be wearing a mask and things like that. That's just having compassion for the public and yourself. But they lack the ability to understand that. Whether it's a conspiracy theory or, you know, they just don't think it's a big deal, whatever their reason is, they can't understand it. So how are children going to understand it? So I can't imagine how hard it is for kids right now. It will be interesting when the children who are in this generation, who are at that age where they can't quite grasp it, but they can understand enough that something's going on. I'd say like 6 to 8-year-olds, maybe even a couple of years older than that, can kind of understand when they are teenagers, like mid to late teens, and they can actually talk through their experiences of this time. I am really interested to know what their take of it is going to be. Your sons are coming back home to take care of you. That is awesome. I'm kind of skipping around in the chat a little bit, guys, because I know I'm way behind. You are distance learning with your 10-year-old. You're not smarter than a 4th grader. If I had to look at the school curriculum now, I would have no idea. No idea. I've seen, what was it? The last time I was, so almost a year ago was the last time I saw like school homework, and I couldn't understand it. There were parts of it that I was just like, I can't help here. Yeah, it is. And that's scary. Like, I'm scared for you. I'm scared for like people in general. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this whole pandemic and everything going on is scary. And I'm an adult. I don't have anybody like in my household that is in the risk area. Like, I don't have anybody who's in the older age, and I don't have any young children, so I don't have to so much worry about that. And I understand that fatalities are coming from people of all ages. You know, I worry because both my husband and I are essential workers, and we both are constantly meeting with people in the community and meeting new people, and that's not going to stop for us. It can't stop for either one of us for our jobs. And that's scary for us. So I couldn't imagine. And I know some of you guys are like nurses and in the medical field, and you guys are having to have constant contact with other people and then going home to your families. I can't imagine what that's like. That has to be so scary. You notice that online teachers seem to make the kids do more and more on their own. He's 7 and wrote 4 reports in 1 week. That seems slightly excessive, but I do understand where the teachers are coming from to like hold the children accountable to be actually learning is probably to load them with more work because they're not in the physical classroom getting the one-on-one learning. So instilling them with, and this is just me assuming, instilling them with, or assigning rather, more homework, the teachers know that as a parent, you guys are going to have to be helping them and making sure that they are learning whatever the subject is. So I can understand why they are. Again, when all of these kids are of a good age to be able to talk through their experience of this will be interesting. And you know, I can see where parents would be frustrated with having to help a lot more of their time because of the additional homework. I don't think the teachers are probably doing that to put more stress on the parents. That's probably a lot of this. I'm sure there's a lot of studies occurring right now that the schools are probably putting constant questionnaires out to the parents about like the virtual learning, the relationship and things like that that the children are having with their teachers and with their parents, to then like how they're actually learning. Are they building relationships? And this is something that I guess parents, I hope parents are kind of taking into account, is like making sure their children aren't lacking in social dynamics. Oregon is frozen. Yeah, I know there's a lot of states that have kind of gone back down, or up really. They've gone back up in numbers, so there's more security and like how people are operating again. Hey, Kim. There are so many bad days as a parent. It always is hard. Yeah, I mean, some days you're just gonna feel defeated. All right, I'm gonna like skip around quite a bit to get to the end of the chat. I know I have found myself when I get too far behind in the chat, we end up in a circle of the conversation because you guys, I will ask something, you guys respond, and it takes me a while to get to it. Then I comment on it, and then you guys add more to it, and then we get stuck in like the circle. Sammy Joe, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry you are dealing with that from your kid and the other stressors in your life. I hope you are making sure you're taking care of not only him, but yourself. You know, as parents, we get so and again, I'm not a parent. So as parents, you guys get so captured in your children, and you want the best for them. You want to give them everything that you can, that oftentimes I have noticed parents end up neglecting themselves. And what they don't realize is neglecting your own mental health or your own self. Although you don't see it having an effect, it is having an effect. It takes a little bit longer for you guys to notice it, but things like behavior changes or attitude changes, things like that are things to be very keen on with your children. If you feel yourself slipping, pay attention to your kids, because if your kids start acting out, start maybe not wanting to be around you as much, they are feeding that. They're feeling it. It radiates off of you. As kids, they are seeing and understanding more and more, not just due to their access to the internet, but we're getting smarter as people. So they see these things, they can feel these things radiating off of their parents. Let's see. Your younger brother was held back because he didn't like talking. He talked to family, but not at school. I mean, children act differently between home and school all of the time. Children also, no offense, they're liars. When they get to a certain age and they're educated enough about some things, they lie. They lie about things that they don't know anything about. And I'm not calling all children liars, but there's situations that happen that, due to my profession before, a kid would say something and it would result in other agencies becoming involved, and the child didn't mean what was actually said because they didn't know any better. And then there's the other side where they did know better and they were trying to play like a gotcha game with their parents, which is super hard to deal with from any side that you're at in going into a family situation like that. Amber, I'm so sorry. Like, it's this times like these, and I know a lot of creators, well, I don't want to say that. I have noticed there's a lot of creators at the beginning of the pandemic that initially wanted to talk about it, and they did talk about it, and then YouTube censored the pandemic and they stopped talking about it. And you know, I hope that there are still other YouTubers out there that I just haven't come across that are still talking about the seriousness and the impacts of COVID. If not, that might be a subject I put on next week, because a lot of our topic tonight ends up being about COVID, because being a parent during this time is so unprecedented. Like, we haven't had something like this in like any of my lifetime. So, we're kind of learning as we go along. Absolutely, Crystal. You feel bad for kids that are not at school every day. Now teachers can't see signs of abuse or malnutrition. Yeah, I can very easily get into talking about like my knowledge of parenting and like things like that, and like the effects of kids not being in school in a negative way. I just don't want this conversation to go down that route if you guys don't want it to. Amber, a few schools here provide breakfast, and yep. Yeah, there's still, I'm skipping around, so I'm missing parts of everybody's conversation, but children who still qualified, who were qualifying for free or reduced lunch, the schools, even if you are in a situation where they're having you teach from home, remote learn, they still are doing meal drop-offs or meal pickups. You just need to follow through with your school district and ask where to go and when those are, how they are managing that. That is still being offered to almost every child, at least in the few states that I have heard about. If it's not offered from the school anymore, I can almost guarantee you there's a food pantry or a food bank in your area or close in a city surrounding you. I would advise getting in touch with those if food is ever an issue. I'm just gonna scroll. So I'm to the bottom. I know if I missed anything that you wanted to talk about or that you wanted me to see, I'm gonna be annoying and say just to retype it in there. You were a kid that depended on free lunch. So was I. I definitely know how that is. You've seen some pretty hilarious videos from your virtual learning friends. There's all kinds of stuff with like the remote learning that has ended up online that's funny. I've seen some parents do some pretty embarrassing things in the background, just not realizing. That's very nice of you, Amber. Yeah, there's always, if anybody is in this chat or anybody watches this in replay and you get to this point, if you ever are struggling with food, with your utilities, with anything for like living, if you're in the States, dial *211. That is United Way. They are in almost every state. They will provide you a list of resources on your area. And if you need specific resources, you can tell them what specific things you're looking for, and they will direct you to what's best for you. If that doesn't help or you are confused by that, as I've always stated, you can reach out to me. I will ask your general location so I can be sure to get the resources that are closest to you. Yeah, meal pickups are super important, especially right now. Those families who were low income, they're still low income. Financially, a lot of people are going to be hit hard. And this is kind of going out of the realm of parenting and more just for the effects of COVID. But like coming up on the holidays, I'm usually not one that is nervous for the holidays. I know some certain unfortunate situations increase over the holidays. Aside from those, I'm kind of concerned with like criminal activity increasing due to parents who maybe had previously been able to afford somewhat of a Christmas or a nice Christmas may not be able to this year due to being laid off. And I know this is me reaching, but it is a possibility that, theft rates and things like that may increase because they don't have the money and they don't want their children to suffer. If you, again, are falling under the bracket of you're needing assistance for your kids, don't take it as a pride thing. Agencies that are offering assistance like Toys for Tots and things like that, which are done nationwide here in the US, you're not judged because you want to provide your children gifts. Yeah, Crystal, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if it was a post. I think it was something my husband saw, and then he was talking to me or he heard it somewhere, about if you have the funds to not give your kids a good Christmas. And I can see both sides of that. So I remember what it was now. He saw a post. Obviously, he knows my career. So anytime he sees like social workers putting out like long articles or long posts or something goes viral from a social worker, he will read it. He spends time on Facebook. I don't ever go on Facebook anymore. I guess he came across this article that was written by a social worker, and it had to do with Christmas coming up and being mindful of what you allow your children to post or what they say or what you get your children, because she was working either with children who were low poverty, or I don't know if she was a state worker and dealing with children in care. I don't know that circumstance, but he brought it up and he was like, so what do you think about that? And my response before I even said anything was, I'm not your typical social worker, because I hold the values and morals of a social worker. But even in my previous job, I worked closely with somebody who was a probation officer. So where social workers tend to be, what I was called was, I would social work my clients, talk it out of them, a lot of talking. And he took a very different approach than I did. He was very direct. And if he knew a client was lying to him, he would flat out address it. And there were parts to his style that I observed when I was learning the job that I have incorporated, because I know at times you have to be more pointed. So when the situation about the gifts was brought up and my husband started telling me about it, I really was arguing myself. I was like, I can see it from both sides. But if a parent is working hard and they have the funds to do so, the kids shouldn't suffer because of that. What needs to be happening is parents need to be instilling that in their children. What we're seeing is this entitled generation of kids who think it's owed to them. So then when kids don't have it, they bully them. They make fun of them because the children who are getting those more expensive gifts, their parents are not instilling the value of what they're getting. That is a parenting issue, in my opinion. You raise your children, and if they are bratty, it is because there's some kind of lack there. In my opinion, you are not instilling in your children the value or the responsibility or the accountability that they have gotten this gift, right? Now the whole Santa thing, it coming from Santa, I can see that could be a hard one to explain to, especially to younger kids. I can understand that. But gifts from like just parents to their kids, I don't think it's right as society that we tell a parent it could be a single mom, a single dad, or somebody who's adopted, or a foster parent who works their freaking ass off for Christmas. My mom was like this. She would work through pain to be able to afford the Christmases that us kids wanted. And my dad was military, like we were very middle class, which is fine. I don't mean that in a negative way, but they would overwork to be able to provide us the Christmases that we wanted. And, I could see that. And most kids, honestly, they don't. And they just don't think of it that way, or they ask for something and their parents just automatically give it to them and don't say, well, if you get good grades, I will reward you with this, or you will get this if you do your chores for a week. I feel that parenting to some degree has become lazy, and that's why we have these entitled kids running around that are bullying other children because they don't have things. I grew up in state care for 10 years, and I can tell you it was very, very rare that I was bullied because I didn't have name brand clothes or because I had clothes that didn't fit me. I was I'm petite still, but I was really small, and I would often get hand-me-downs that didn't fit, that were bleached, that had holes in them. And it was very rare, looking back on my childhood, that I would get bullied for my clothes or for not having the newest toy. Instead, I was bullied for other things, which are probably, looking back, more emotionally damaging than anything. But that's because kids are kids and they just don't know any different. Kids don't always know how to deal with situations they don't know of. So they approach them in ways that are not necessarily appropriate, which can come to, again, the lack of education around kids being in state care. It is like a huge no-no. Like, I don't know why society is so uncomfortable talking about kids in care. The only thing I can think of is because they know children are in care because of abuse, neglect, or abandonment. That should not be held against the child, though, and other children going into care. It should be talked about because of that, to break the stigma, which is a lot of why I talk about the things I have on my channel, and I will continue to talk about them, because people need to be educated. People need to know the realities of being in state care or being adopted. There are hardships to all of that, and people don't know it because they choose to not listen. So let me go back up. I know you guys were chatting about, I try to keep the chat from moving on me, but I didn't this time, so. What happened? Agree to disagree? Did I not go up high enough? Yeah, Crystal, I understand where you're coming from. I do get the premise of that for sure. I get the premise of the article. It wasn't made, or anybody who supports that line of thinking isn't in ill intent. I understand that. Yeah, Facebook can be, I don't like Facebook anymore. The only reason I still have it is for family. Exactly, Melody. You got to make the best of what you have. It's also another like part of society that puts pressure on parents is to make sure that if you're not giving your kid like the next best greatest thing, then you are looked at as if you're not doing what you can for your kids, and that's not necessarily the case. Again, this all goes down, like parenting has to be so hard because it's all based off of society and society's judgments. Going down to what you gift your kids for Christmas, it is absolutely ridiculous. These things should not be in place. Yeah, Crystal, I understand. That was what the article was about, like the child saying that they weren't valuable because they didn't get a good gift. I still think that personally, this is my personal opinion, is that to some degree that falls on like the morals that are being taught to kids or are missing in those kind of life lessons is, I don't recall ever being jealous of other kids at any point in my life. Even as an adult, I don't get jealous of what other people have unless it's my husband. If he gets something that I wanted, I'll tell him, like, or if he gets something nice, we typically try to do the tit for tat thing. If he gets something nice and spends a little bit of extra money on something special for himself, then, it's kind of expected in return that I can do the same. But as far as like other people, like I'm not envious of other people's vehicles or other people's homes. I'm very content in that. And I think that's a moral that I was taught, to be happy with what I have. And it could be because I did come from nothing and he was in a place where it was very like normal compared to what I was from before. That could be it. It could be that I value things more because of my upbringing. It could be a number of things. But with that article, whenever my husband was providing that aspect that this child said that to the social worker, I understand like the social worker's heart dropping. If you're a social worker, you have been in that position, no matter what population you're dealing with, where you've been told something or disclosed something was disclosed to you, where your heart just drops and you are in a situation where as a social worker, you have to maintain professionalism and you can't show that you're affected by the emotion because you are supposed to be the support for that person. And we have all been there. I have been there more times than I can count. And I really hope that in that moment, she used that opportunity to provide that to that child. I haven't read the article. I don't know where it's at, but that also kind of falls on professionals. If children are disclosing things to you that they are, putting their self-worth up against an inanimate object, that child they're lacking in other areas as well. Hey, Lauren. Yeah, and I think that is appropriate, Lauren. Once your children are to a certain age where they can understand the value of a dollar, I don't think it's poor parenting to start setting your children up on how to budget and how to manage money by saying, we don't have enough money for this item now. Teach them how to save. You start doing chores and I'll pay you. What is obviously in those scenarios, make sure you're doing things like that in accordance with your budget. But like teach them responsibility. Give them tasks to do, homework to do, extra chores, things like that. You set a dollar limit on Christmas. Yeah, I mean, most families, especially once you're adults, like most families put a dollar amount, like don't spend more than this. Whenever you're at work, if your work does like Christmas parties or anything like that, there's typically a dollar amount set, not to go over it, things like that. I don't think that's wrong to do with your family and your children if they're of an age that it's appropriate. If they are like 4, they're not going to know. Crystal, I'm glad you had family that were able to step in and assist with your upbringing. That's awesome that you're giving back to your community, Amber. Your brother and sister-in-law do their 19-year-old son's laundry. Oh, man. Is he still living at home? Is that why? And I think that's fine, Miss Cassandra. Like, if your child is of an age, and again, it's not my place to judge. These are just my opinions on parenting. Is like, if your child is of an appropriate age or an age that can understand money to a degree, I think it's okay to start teaching them those values. If you don't, there is a potential that that child's going to grow up and blow their money. They're going to get a job and they're just going to spend all of their money. They're going to be irresponsible with their money because you really need to learn how to handle money as young as you can. Amber, don't hold it against yourself that you're not where you were last year. I mean, look at the year that we've had. Look at what we're facing. No matter what you can give back to your community is always better than nothing. I agree, Jen, not to be so hard on herself. So, this parenting topic has gone all over the place. We've talked a little bit about everything, but that's how parenting is. It's all over the place. You never know what you're going to get every day. You learn from your parents on what not to do by watching their craziness. I mean, sometimes that's how you build your parenting style. Is you experience something when you were a child that as an adult, you know the effects it had on you, so you choose to do the polar opposite. Parenting really does take a village. Yeah, it seems, the more people you have surrounding you and helping you with raising children helps. Your nephew is still at home. Schools are all remote. But I think he's doing more adult things, even if he lives at home. Yeah, I mean, hopefully he does his laundry sometimes. We do want kids. It's just we're facing infertility. We just found out not too long ago that that's something that we're struggling with. So one day we'll have kids, whether they're biological or adopted. CC, your son is 18, responsible and independent. He took a year off of college and he wasn't sure. So your deal was he had to work, and he is. And that's a great, like, if you're going to have your children in your home when they're an adult, I think it is within your bounds as a parent to like set stipulations. If you're still going to be home, you need to be participating in like family dinners, that you need to be contributing either to your own whether it's to like rent, if you want to charge your children rent, you can, or if you're going to make them responsible for their own cell phone bill. Like once they get to an age where they typically wouldn't be at home per your culture standards, I know different cultures operate differently as far as when children should leave the house. In some cultures, they shouldn't at all. But here in like our culture, if it's expected that kids leave, I think you should start instilling those things. That doesn't mean that you're cutting them off or you're making them thin for themselves at that exact age. But I think it helps for once, it helps them become prepared to be independent by starting to establish more stringent responsibilities on them. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad he helped you around the house. You have no comment on both of your brothers, 33 and 28. Yeah, it's okay, guys. It's been brought up a couple of times. I don't talk about it because I'm not prepared to talk about it. I don't mind mentioning it. Don't feel bad. I wouldn't mention it if I didn't feel comfortable mentioning it. But as far as like actually talking about it, more than just a few sentences, I'm not prepared for that. I would probably start to cry. That's very nice of you, Kim. Your husband's 42 and has, I could say the same thing. I mean, my husband's the same age as I am, but that man has not done any laundry unless it was just his clothes. He loves to do that. If I forget to wash part of his uniform, he will wash just his uniform, not any of the other clothes that maybe have accumulated, and they're never put away. It's kind of funny. All right. Do you guys have any other questions or topics you want to talk about in relation to parenting? Do you feel that we covered everything tonight that you anticipated to cover within talking about parenting? Or is there something that you thought we would discuss that hasn't been brought up yet? Again, I know I missed parts of the chat earlier on, so I don't know if things were said or brought up that I didn't address. Does anybody have any questions for me? I know that's weird because I'm not a parent, but if you have questions, like a lot of you can deduce what I've done before. If you have any questions related to that, if I can answer it, I will. Oh my gosh, Kim. You must have a really, really hard to understand washing machine. That's so funny. Yeah, Amber, you bring up a good point. Like I always say near the end of my live streams, especially the open discussion ones, probably only these, to be honest, that I appreciate everybody who is willing to be vulnerable, especially on a place like the internet, and provide any like vulnerability. It's hard for people to open up, especially to people in a chat. Like you just see a picture of them, you don't know them, and like me, you're getting to know me, but you guys still don't actually know me, you know what I mean? So I can imagine, like I've had this conversation with you guys before. I very rarely used to engage in chats when I was just a viewer. Laundry isn't her forte. It is a very nice community. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, our little open discussion chats are getting a little bit more people are joining them as we do them. Interesting, Sheila. I mean, there's a lot going on with her right now. You never want to say anything stupid. You can never say anything stupid. Not in our chats. Trust me. Nobody here is going to judge you. Out of the people who watch my open discussions, we are like the most open-minded and understanding group. I would think harvest equals farmer as well. They're harvesting something, right? Yeah, Sheila, no, I'm not avoiding what you're saying. I just don't know. Talking about Katie is a rabbit hole. And I understand what you're talking about, but in relation to her in parenting, I've always kind of avoided allowing her name to be really brought up to too much degree, because it really is like a double standard. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. With her, I do hold a double standard as far as wanting to discuss her when it relates to children, whether it's her coverage of children or not, except for the Sophie case. Any other time, I've really chosen not to talk about her or her opinions in relation to how she talks about other people's kids, because, you know, she is such a touchy subject, and with her own child, it becomes a sticky situation. Because if I'm willing to judge her on how she's talking about other people's children, it's like, well, then I should be able to discuss her and how she handles her own child. And I've not felt comfortable doing that. And it's a weird situation. I'm not totally opposed to talking about it. I would just want to make sure it wasn't in ill intent on why it was brought up. And I'm not trying to say you brought it up for any ill intent at all. But some people come into chats just trying to stir the pot. You've been in my chats before. I know you're not meaning anything bad by it. But with how hot Katie's name is right now, I would be very cautious. But she does nothing but shell out judgment towards other people about everything. But she doesn't hold herself to the same standard that she's expecting other people to. Yeah, I don't mind. Exactly, Sammy Joe. Like, I can kind of agree to that to some degree, but I know that that's a touchy, we hit touchy territory with her. Because I don't want to be mean, and I have some opinions that I'm sure other people have, but they're not nice ones. Nuh-uh. You wish parents wouldn't rush their kids to be adults. You had a friend who bought their 16-year-old beer on his birthday. Well, that's illegal. I know some states you can drink with your parents, but that's a cause for concern, in my opinion. Sheila, you're a special needs mama, so you won't judge the parenting itself. My only concern was suddenly making lives and videos. Yeah, I've talked about that too. Okay. Do you guys want to get into it? Because if you want to, I don't mind. This is a touchy area. I shouldn't laugh at that. But I agree with you. No, I know your intentions, Sheila. I've seen you in other chats before. And I'm never opposed to talking about scenarios. I have pretty much avoided talking about Katie's parenting, because everybody sees it now, but for so long, people didn't see the hypocrisy within her, that she would sit there on her channel and damn these other parents for behaviors which, in my opinion, were not to the degree that what I have observed or what I appear to see. I have always and will continue to always give her the benefit that I'm sure her life is hard. I will always give her that credit. I'm sure it's very hard for her, and I'm not discounting her as a parent, but the amount of time she is online that is evidenced her being online is shocking. You're judging other people's parenting, but what you're portraying to your audience is how much time you're online. But you don't want people to judge your parenting. You used to write articles about your journey or parts of your journey, and then you would bring up your child online, and then when it didn't suit your narrative, he was off limits. And then now that you got yourself in hot doo-doo, you want to talk about him and make it seem like you want him on camera, but you really don't. And you're doing all of these things, and I'm not going to say you're playing the victim card. Could that be argued? It could. But it is very ironic, in my opinion, as somebody who has the ability to think critically and take a step back and look at all of your content, you really, really need to take a step away. Not because of the current stuff going on, but because you have pushed out so many different narratives about your own child that it is hard for people to understand. And now that you're in hot shit, not only are you trying to bring him on your platform and make him a part of your platform, you're trying to convince any new people that your sole content has always been to advocate and to bring awareness. Where was your awareness? Because what I can tell you, what I have seen, is you do nothing but judge other people and how they are raising their children. But nobody can judge you for how you are raising yours. That's not fair. And this can go even to her commentary content. That's why she's in hot shit. But if we're going to sit here and talk about her parenting, I'm not going to rant, because I can be an adult. I can have a legitimate conversation and be eye to eye with you. But there are legitimate concerns. She wants to sit there and complain that CPS has been called to her house. For good fucking reason, in my opinion. Just because you have a house full of nurses, just because you have a husband who is home all day taking care of his son, there could be cause for concern. Because you say one thing, but you do another, even in regards to your parenting. I don't understand, and I'm not trying to judge her in how she chooses to parent. We don't see how she actually parents at all. We don't see it at all, which is fine. If she doesn't want to allow that to be perceived by the public, that's fine. Then don't sit here and say you're an advocacy channel and you started your channel to tell your story. Because bitch, where? Where have you ever tried to actually tell your story online, on your YouTube? Because I haven't seen any videos of that until yesterday. And I went and did rant the day of or the day after you said you wanted to be an advocate, because that is so disheartening to those of us who have commentary channels but actually do provide some kind of advocacy to our channels. What is this? What are my Wednesdays? My open discussions, if you can't tell, are advocacy work for multiple topics. I always offer you guys for resources, or if you need assistance, to reach out to me, and I follow through with that. You can ask anybody who has reached out to me. I will follow up with you to get you those resources. If you are coming to me because you need resources and you need help, I reply to you and I make sure that I give you some kind of feedback or resource. So that is what actual advocacy is like. And advocacy can look different to everybody, but getting called out for calling a child bratty and then donating the AdSense when you hadn't even been paid yet, that's not advocacy work. Just so you know, that's covering your ass, and people see through it now. You have to deal with it. All right, so I've avoided the chat just to get through it so I wouldn't be influenced by anything I read. Well, thank you, motherfucking Kraken. I'm surprised my voice is soothing. I think other people have said that, and I just don't see it. You witness her state that ABA therapy is like treating your kid like a dog. You want trained. That's not bringing awareness to anything but ugliness. Yeah, I know. I've seen her kind of talk poorly about ABA, and that maybe has been her experience with her son, but there are people who attend ABA who it has changed their lives. Again, with awareness and advocacy work, if you are actually doing it appropriately, you understand that not everybody has the same experience that you do, which is why when I tell my journey and my experiences, I continually say throughout that entire series to never put my story or what you're hearing from me onto somebody else, because it's never going to be the same. Even if there's some similarities, it's never going to be the same. You know that if you're an advocate. Exactly, Sheila. What company you go to is also going to depend on the outcome. What does ABA stand for? I can't remember what it stands for, but it is a form of therapy that is typically used for children who, well, not even children, for people who have needs. Typically, it's autistic or children who have sensory issues. Applied behavioral analysis. Thank you, Sheila. I should know that. It just helps them to learn and to cope differently. It's a form of therapy. Yeah, she is, Donna. It's been in her court for a while. It's data driven. Yeah. Yeah, there's always programs for people. It does depend on the child. I mean, every situation is situational. Nothing, just because something works for you and you are in the same situation doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. I mean, to be as blunt as possible about that, like, this can translate over to addiction. You can be addicted to the same substance as somebody else, but it's only going, and you may go to one treatment facility and that person comes because you're having such a great experience and you're becoming sober and you're, learning everything, and they enter the same program and they don't have the same effect. It can be a number of reasons why. It can be a personal issue. It can be, you can tell it's getting late. I'm having a hard time thinking. It could be the staff, that you don't get along with the staff, you don't get along with the model, the model of that particular program doesn't work for you. I mean, it can be translated across anything. Every situation for anything that can be stigmatized or that has a bad stigma is going to be situational. It's the same thing with child welfare. Everything's situational. It's all case by case. Yeah, exactly. Sheila says she has 2 kids with autism and they're polar opposites. Your son is sensory seeking and your daughter is sensory aversive. Yeah, it's so different. Every case is situational. And just so you guys know, my laptop's gonna die here shortly. So once it dies, I will only be able to see comments on my phone, which is not ideal. So I probably will start to wrap this up here in just a little bit. With all of that being said, I offered it and another topic got brought up, but do you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns that you want to ask me in relation to parenting? Your 8-year-old granddaughter has several major issues. Yeah, I can't imagine, Sheila. That has to be a hard daily struggle for you guys. Does anybody, I think I just asked this. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Wow, Sheila. You are one very strong woman, I can tell you that. That's got to be a lot to handle. But I'm sure your children and your husband wouldn't have it any other way. How do you motivate your 18-year-old to do something with his life? Then Call of Duty came out and you lost him. Oh my gosh. Yeah, my husband is, I don't know if you've been in it before when I've talked about it. My husband's a gamer. So he's like super upset that we didn't pre-order the PS5. It's like a constant, like, darn it. I mean, if you're being serious, there's a number of ways to motivate your 18-year-old. Just because he's legally an adult, like, you can still motivate him like you would when he was 16 with money or, trips, whatever you guys are able to afford that you can do with him or that would motivate him to do something. So say if you do this, it's like a reward system. It works for adults too. Thank you for being here, Kim. I hope you have a good night and you sleep well. Oh. He wanted to play games all day. Oops. Yep, exactly. Sometimes you just have to give them that little extra push. Sorry if like your screen starts shaking. I'm having to use my phone now. My laptop just died. It's never worked for him. I mean, what is something he's interested in other than games? He is in your house, so I mean, he's using, unless he's supporting financially to some degree for like the electronics and stuff. It depends on how harsh you want to be about it. If you want to be a little bit more strict about it, then, take his game away. that sounds childish to do to an 18-year-old, but if he's not willing to help or mature at all and you want that to be something he accomplishes, then sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to as a parent. I don't know how to do this efficiently on my phone without my laptop. Yeah, you also turned off the internet. Yeah, like sometimes you have to make those decisions, even if your child's an adult. You kind of just have to give them an ultimatum sometimes. And if they don't do the ultimatum, then, sometimes you just have to make them be independent and stop enabling them by like paying for their stuff, make them pay rent. Let me see, what you say? He does have a job, so he pays for his own stuff. I mean, still, but if it's an issue, like if you feel that he's not, I'm assuming you've probably had like legitimate sit down, like real talk conversations with him. If you haven't, I would suggest like seriously sitting him down and like being like, this is a no bullshit thing. Like we really need to get to the bottom of this. And at the end of it, like have the ultimatum laid out for him. Like if you're not willing to plan something for yourself and move forward, I'm not going to continue to enable you to continue to do nothing with your life by allowing you to live in my house, by allowing to continue to feed you, by allowing, those are conversations that have to happen sometimes. I'm pretty sure my parents had to have it with my older sister, who is extremely intelligent and like graduated top of a really prestigious school, but they were slightly enabling her to stay at home. So they had to have that conversation. And she left not long after that. You got your son the iPhone 11 last year. He's 15 when he starts his, I'll just start. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, again, like we said at the beginning of this, like there is no right or wrong way on how to parent your kids, especially once they're 18. Once they're 18, they're an adult. Like technically you don't have to care for them anymore. Am I saying kick them out? Absolutely not. But if they're going to be a little asshole or be lazy or take advantage of you, heck yeah. Put in place some rules for them. Because once they're an adult, we know there's no rules as an adult except for like your laws and stuff that you have to follow. There's no written rules, but there's rules that we follow as an adult. There's things that you always have to abide by and adhere to even as an adult. Yeah, you have to put your foot down and set some rules at some point. I agree with that. So, are there any other questions? If that didn't answer your questions, Sheila, or if you want more unsolicited, or I guess if you're asking it solicited advice, just shoot me a DM on Twitter or Instagram. Does anybody have any other questions about parenting? And then before I leave, you guys will be the first to know of something. It's not that exciting. I shouldn't say that. Say it like that. Okay. So, self-plug, in case because there's people in this chat that haven't been in my other chats when I've talked about it. I do have a second channel. I cannot put it in the chat because my laptop died, but I will put it in the description box. If you are interested in crafts at all, I have started a second channel with my sister-in-law about crafts, and it's like doing epoxy cups and shirts and things like that. I have a cup that I'm working on. I just have to finish. It's behind me, actually. I can grab it for you. Ow. My hip hurts from sitting like that. just so you guys know what I'm talking about. So this is the cup I'm currently working on. It's about halfway done. I have to finish the last bits, but I have one other cup tutorial. That one is being filmed as I'm going through the process of it. I did post another video of some shirts I did for a customer. So if you're interested in that, I will put it in the description. You can check it out. The videos are long right now while I am figuring out how to edit better and learn how to cut it down. If you're ever interested in purchasing anything, in those videos, I link the Instagram, and from the Instagram, you can find the Etsy store where we sell these through. I think she told me, my sister-in-law is the one who set all this up initially. You might not be able to purchase through Etsy. I can't remember, but we'll let you know if you're interested in anything like that, that's there. Another thing is, I know I appreciate everybody being super respectful of today's open discussion and not bringing the chaos that has been going on with Katie onto this stream. I really, really appreciate that. I know a lot of you follow with what's going on with the Katie saga. As I said in my last rant about her, it is my intention to not really talk about her. However, on Friday during the day, I'm not sure when yet, I intend to go live and kind of talk about everything more in relation to Unirock than Katie. Of course, she will probably be a part of that. But I am no longer intending on doing just Katie dedicated rants. Moving forward, that doesn't mean I'm not opposed to, if you guys see something that she does and you want to talk about it, don't feel fearful or like I'm going to get mad if you ask about it. If you want to know my opinion, you all know I have some. Most of them from my last 3 rants on her haven't changed. They're not going to change. That is genuinely how I feel about her. Her behavior is getting worse and worse, and I honestly think a lot of that is because she is getting attention from all of this. So I do not want to feed into that by continuing to put her name in my titles and make a deal about it. I'm not here for the views. You guys know that. I'm not here for the subscribers. I appreciate all of my new subscribers, but I don't want, as I stated then, I'm not a Katie channel. It is being perceived that I am a Katie hate channel, and that's not it. And I'm not going to allow that to be pushed onto my channel. So if you want to know my opinions about her during any other live, if it's appropriate, I don't mind you asking. I just want to have that conversation with you guys. On Friday, I am going to kind of talk about Unirock. I've been going through the lives. My work life has been absolutely ridiculously busy this week. So I went from having company to a hellacious week at work that I didn't anticipate. So my time to film has been nothing at all. And where Britt is better in the fact that she will utilize her lunch breaks and stuff like that for filming, I won't. I need a break. My lunch break is literally my break. I come home and I let my dogs out and I just relax and unplug for an hour. So with all of that being said, I will be talking about Unirock and everything on Friday. If you guys want to bring up Katie, that is up to you guys. Am I saying I'm not going to talk about Katie moving forward? No, I'm sure she's going to continue the shit show and people want to know my opinion. So I'm not going to prevent you guys feeling comfortable asking my opinion about her. But I am not going to be sitting here and saying, and I'm not trying to talk poorly about the channels that do nothing but talk about Katie or their sole content is Katie. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what my channel is. And that's not what I want people to perceive my channel as, if that makes sense. And I feel like because I did hop on the train there for a minute of criticizing her every move, granted, I feel it it was warranted, I'm not taking those videos down. I stand behind everything I said in those videos, and it does get my point across. But I know, because I have stated that I didn't want to talk about her anymore, my subscribers who have been here for a while understand that and are respectful of me, and they will not bring it up because I said that. So I wanted to clarify for you guys that if something happens and you want to know my opinion, please don't be fearful to ask me. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to not talk about her, but I'm going to stop feeding into it by dedicating soul videos to her and soul live streams to her and putting her name as the eye catcher. You know, will she probably be tagged? Yeah, but that I'm not going to just make it seem like she's all I care about, because that's not the case. And I know you guys know that, and I just know you guys respect me and what I've stated before. So I just wanted to provide some clarification, because although I'm behind on what's going on, I found out the later half of today kind of what has transpired over the last day, and I'm just as disgusted as I was before. And you know, I do have opinions, but a lot of those have been stated already. It's just with different people in a slightly different situation. For those of you, I know I saw a couple of times you guys like my rants. If that's something you guys, I mean, this sounds kind of silly to say, but you know, I don't mind ranting about people. There's plenty of other people on this platform I don't like. So if I've kind of hidden that side of my personality from you guys, I've always said that I can be a bitch. That is me being a bitch. So if you guys want my ranty rants on other creators, feel free, if you're comfortable, to shoot them to me. If it's somebody that I really think is crappy and deserves a rant, I'll give them a rant. Or if I don't know who they are or enough about them, I will look into them. And if they are warranting a rant video, if you guys want me to try and incorporate that as part of my content, I don't mind doing that. You know, I can always have a little bitch session. I think we all can. We're human. People piss us off, even if they're just people online, you know? So I may post some polls over tomorrow to kind of gauge where you guys are at with some of these things that I'm addressing with you guys. The people who are in my Wednesday night lives are typically, you know, the subscribers who have been here from the beginning, and you guys' opinions and thoughts mean a lot to me. And I always want you guys, as much as possible, to keep our community as close and as together as we can, even as we're going through we go through these growing pains. I know I have gained several subscribers, and I appreciate them. Like I said, some of them are going to weed away as well, because they maybe are expecting just Katie content, and that's not what this is about. You know, I've talked about it before, where I have been the person who has subscribed to a channel based off of one video and not known what their actual message was, and then later unsubscribed. And I don't hold that against anybody. I absolutely do not. So none of that's going to affect me. I just kind of wanted to have a real conversation with you guys at the end of this to kind of let you know where I'm at. Content is going to be coming. More nail videos are coming. As you can tell, I don't have any on. The nail fill that I did only lasted a week. I don't know if it was a me error or if it just didn't work well. And my other order from him came in, so I plan on filming that. And then I can always film some makeup videos in the mix, and some commentaries coming along too, as well as some other videos. So let me go back and see what you guys have been saying. Being on my phone is making this super difficult. How much? I guess I missed quite a bit. Sorry, guys. And I'm sure the phone is shaking. I'm sorry. Are you taking a break next week as the day before the holidays? Or will we get another live? I'm probably not going to take a break for the holidays. we're not doing anything for Thanksgiving. It's just my husband and I. And to be quite honest, we haven't celebrated Thanksgiving for several years because he's been deployed or he's been TDY'd. For Thanksgiving, I typically spend it with my dad. So we're probably just going to spend it like any other long weekend. Thank you, Lauren, for becoming a part of us. Jen loves those rants. Yeah, a lot of people like those rants. I think a lot of people like seeing my, not that this personality that you guys see isn't real. This is real too. I don't fake who I am on here, but that me ranting, that's how I am whenever I get irritated or pissed off. It can get worse than that, but yeah, Sheila, this is just one of the cups I'm working on right now. I tried to do this milky thing with some pearl and it turned out yellow, so I'm going to cover that up with a decal. But yeah, that's what I'm currently working on. It's about halfway done. I have to print off my decal and sand it down and then do a final layer of epoxy. I'm in the middle of, I've filmed the first part. I just got to do the last part of that cup. Sorry, there's dog hair. Yeah, Jen, a lot of us do feel like we're in it for the long haul, and I understand that. Like I said, I have nothing against other channels who have and will continue to just focus on her. Like, that's fine. Those channels know more. Those channels provide some receipts, whereas I don't ever provide like legitimate receipts when I'm talking about stuff. So I understand their content, and I understand if you're wanting like day by day, play by play content, there's a few channels you can go to for that. Probably Smiley Mama, the AdSense for Christmas. I mean, almost every YouTuber knows that once the holidays come around, supposedly the AdSense are supposed to be better. Thank you for being here, Jen. Hey, Beauty Demon, how are you? Good night, Caroline. You're a color pencil painter. You probably have a whole heck of a lot more talent than I do. Does your new business have a Facebook page? It does. I haven't gotten into it yet, though. My sister-in-law has been the only one managing that right now. I've primarily been doing the YouTube right now while she has been maintaining the rest of it since she initially started this business, and I'm just coming in to it now. I think she's had it for like 3 or 4 months. She just can't keep up with everything she's got going on. Candace, you've been wanting to play with epoxy. Just be warned, epoxy is dangerous to work with. So be aware. Otherwise, as long as you're following the safety precautions, you will be fine. Does the cup have a top? It does. It has a top and a straw. It was still on my turner though. So that's why it's not on there. And the cup's not complete yet. Art, talent is subjective. I have like zero creativity, to be honest. You shared Little Red Chat, but not here. You had, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear all of that, Crystal. I'm glad you're doing okay. I'm glad they caught it early. My mom had breast cancer and it was caught early. I don't care if you share it, Sheila. I just won't be able to grab it. But if you want to share it for the others in the chat, you can. For me, if you want me to see your stuff or anything like that, you just have to DM me. When stuff gets put in the chat, if I'm not on the laptop, I can't copy stuff. I would likely end the live on accident. All right, guys. Well, it's almost 9 o'clock here, so I need to get off of here. I have a project I have to finish for someone else. I did not film it, but I have a project I have to finish tonight for tomorrow, and I need to eat still and get ready for work. So I am going to end up having to get off of here. Oh, thank you, Candace. I appreciate you being here for that long. That's awesome. I know that's where most of my subscribers came from, was my coverage on the Micah Stauffer stuff initially. And I know there's been updates with them. I'm trying to catch up with that. I'm also trying to catch up with Sophie, with the Sophie case updates. I've watched like an hour of that. I will have my opinions and updates to provide to you guys once I catch up entirely. So I'm hoping on Friday, since I'm off on Friday, I will be able to catch up and do like a day stream and maybe an afternoon, like I don't want to say early, because late morning for me is different for most of you guys, but I'll probably do like a late morning live stream doing one topic and an afternoon stream doing the other. Thank you, Scumps. You're awesome. You guys are all awesome. You're so supportive. I appreciate all of you. So, with all of that being said, I was supposed to leave a while ago and I got long-winded and drawn out. If you guys have any comments, suggestions, anything like that on anything we discussed, whether it be at the beginning or the end of this video, reach out to me. Let me know. If you're uncomfortable making it a public thing, I'm fine with you guys reaching out to me in DMs. You guys know the story. I don't know how to get my links for my Twitter or my Instagram because I can't seem to log into them on the computer, but you can just search up Manda Pants or Manda Pants Does Life and I should come up. On Instagram, I'm not gonna lie, I don't check Instagram that often and I don't have my push notifications on for either. So it may take a day before I respond to you. It's not because I'm trying to avoid you or anything like that. A lot of it is I'm just busy and I don't get the notifications for it intentionally, so I'm not on my phone all the time. So with all of that being said, I appreciate everybody being here. You guys are all awesome. I will have some polls up probably on Twitter and my community page tomorrow for you guys to vote on some things. So if you're interested in providing your feedback on times or topics to be discussed, be sure you just keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. I hope you all are having a good day, evening, or night, wherever you are. Bye, guys.